And Mozambique is so much different than the United States that it's literally. I mean, I think about it during my mission, and it's literally like an entirely different world. Like, I mean, I don't think there's any aspect of our lives that is like the same there. Like every part of the world around us is different. So, um, just describe, I guess, kind of Mozambique as a whole, as well as I guess kind of their lifestyle. Um, it's I mean, it's a poor country, so it's very different. They Mozambique as a whole is tropical. I mean, I think they call it tropical savanna. It kind of depends on the area of where you're at. Some places have mountains. Mostly, I'd say there's not too many mountains. It's pretty flat. Um, it's kind of jungly, but not like rainforest jungle. It's kind of just like African jungle, I guess. Um, Down south, it's a little bit more like a desert. In Maputo, a little bit more like a desert. Not as dry as Utah, but it's not really densely vegetated. Um, Now, Mozambique, as far as describing what it's like and what the people live like, it varies a lot from the rural areas to the city. It varies greatly, um, as well as the social class. Um, I would say well, I'd say the richer people there are like the very poorest here, or maybe even a little bit poorer. But I mean, of course, it's different. It's all relative. Um, in in the rural areas, it's very traditional lifestyle. They, I mean, a lot of people, depending on the area, kind of they have different traditional methods of building houses. But um, I guess all throughout Mozambique, the poor people build their houses out of mud, which I mean, I guess is kind of cool. That's yeah, I think what people think of when they think of Africa. But there's lots of houses that are made out of mud. Um, just with sticks, and then they make a kind of a framework, and then plaster it with mud. Um, and on the top, a lot of the houses have what they call chapa, which is just like kind of a thin metal, kind of scrap metal, I guess, or maybe palm thatch in some areas, um, or I think grass. I think grass even in some areas, not so much where I was at, but maybe in other places. Um, Otherwise, I guess kind of the little bit nicer houses are made out of homemade cinder blocks. Um, so yeah, I mean you see quite a bit of variance. The really nice houses are made out of nicer blocks, but still cement. No wood houses. Um, it's what can I say? I'd say most Mozambicans have their own farms, or what they call them is mashambas. So these mashambas, they're not really farms. I mean I say farm, they're not really farms though, but they're not really gardens. They're like in between kind of. So it's like I guess a really big garden, and they just have like I guess kind of a stereotypical hoe, and they bring it around and um, use that to do their gardening or farming, I guess, depending on what you want to call it. Um, so um, they grow corn maybe or rice, or mandioca, um, or or just like other fruits. There's lots of mangoes there, pineapples, coconuts, um, and then a lot of other fruits that you've probably never even heard of. um, Let me see, what else can I say? It's as far as transportation goes, almost everybody walks. So when you're walking out on the street, it's kind of different. When you walk on the street in America, I mean you might pass a few people, but generally everybody goes in cars, so you don't really pass people, and people there in their house generally if they're at home. In Mozambique, it's different. You have, I mean, it's a completely different feeling there because you're literally amongst the people. Like, I mean, as you pass them, people, I mean, they prefer to be outside of their house instead of inside of their house because it's so small. So, I mean, you see people in the yard, you greet them, they greet you back. You greet the people as they're passing on the street. They're very friendly. So, um, you get a very, I guess, a communal feeling. You really feel like you're like amongst them. Oh, I guess something kind of funny. Um, something you'll want to get used to. I guess it's kind of about the people, but something you'll want to get used to is getting called white or Mzungu. So I guess depending on the area, they have different words for it depending on what the local language is in that area. But down south they'll call you Mulungu. Further up north they call you Mzungu or Muzugu. Further up north in Kilimani, where I served. Or I can't remember what it is in Nampula. But yeah, in any case, they'll call you white. Oh, Vakani, that's what it is. No. In any case, I can't remember the word for white there. But everywhere you go, every day you'll get called white. Everybody will, yell it out to you. Mzungu. They say it's not racist, so I mean, I guess you just have to take their word for it. And it's also mostly little kids that call you that. If you just accept that people are going to call you white and yell that out to you, then you'll be a lot better off. Like if you try to fight it, and if the whole mission you think, oh, they're calling me racist names, then it'll make it hard for you. So just accept that you're going to get called white, accept that you're different, and just deal with it. Don't call them names back or anything. I mean, obviously as a missionary, that's not acceptable. The transportation for, I guess, larger distances is something called a shapa. For anybody that's paying attention, I guess that's the same name as the scrap metal on top of the house. Now, basically, so it's a van, and I guess you could say it's kind of a van made out of scrap metal. I don't know if it's called that for that reason, but basically it's just these beat up vans, and they cram them full of people. Once all the seats are full, then you have to stand in there and kind of just crouch over, and definitely not comfortable transportation, or convenient, but it's a fun adventure, I guess. They also have something called chopelas, which are kind of like motorized, three-wheeled scooters, I guess. I don't know, not scooters, but there's a bench in the back that holds about 3 people, and then up front there's the driver, and then it has just the 3 wheels. And it's kind of covered, so it's just like this little carriage thing. And you can use that sometimes. Generally, those are a little bit more money though, so we don't use those as much as missionaries. In one area I served in Kilimani, which was probably one of my favorite areas. They had a really unique form of transportation. The city was a little bit too small to justify having these vans, or the shapas. So instead of that, they had something called bike taxis, which is just a bunch of people riding around on bikes all throughout the city, just independently, And on the back of the bike, on the bike rack, they have a padded seat with, down underneath, they have metal pegs welded onto the bike. So you just go out to the street and kind of flag down two bike taxis, one for yourself, one for your companion. Hop up just behind the guy. He's sitting right here, and you're sitting behind him on this bike rack. And you'll tell him where you're going. He'll take you there. You pay him afterwards. Really unique, really fun. Actually, I really enjoyed riding on bike taxis because it's kind of just it's a really peaceful city. The city that has them, Kilimani. So it's really laid back and just kind of a truly African way of traveling. As far as the dress goes, I guess that's something that would be worth mentioning. The clothing. The men dress more or less like we dress here. Most of the clothes that they wear actually is donated from first world countries like America. So you'll see a lot of kind of DI clothing. I'd say it's probably about 95% of what they wear. Except for the women, the women may wear that for their shirts, but they don't wear pants traditionally. The women, maybe some of the more modern women do in the city, But for the most part, almost everybody in Mozambique wears something called a capelana, the women. And basically that's just a great big brightly colored cloth, usually with some cool African design. And they wrap it around their waist, kind of tuck it in like you would with a towel, I guess. And so it's just like kind of like a long skirt. And yeah, that's cool. I guess it's kind of traditional African clothing. Almost all of the women wear that. You'll see that everywhere. Also, the women use that for the same piece of cloth, the capelana. They use it for a lot of other stuff. Like, for example, their babies. They'll always bring their babies with them wherever they go. And so they'll just wrap it up like a, what do you call it, sling, I guess. It's basically just like a sling. So they'll wrap their baby like that and have the baby on their back, or they can pull them forward to feed them and put them back or wherever.